Grateful you could join Prime Business with me, Pious Kojo Backah, to our very first story. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says Ghana's recorded approval should not be seen as luck or that the country was favored. $600 million is expected to hit the accounts of the Bank of Ghana tomorrow, May 19. According to him, plans were carefully calculated to ensure an economic renaissance of the country, hence the efforts by the government to conclude the deal.
Ghana's IMF board approval is far from a magic solution wand. What it is, however, is a crucial first step on the necessary journey of strong reforms, inclusive growth, and relentless pursuit of a growth agenda geared towards restoring our economy to a place of strength, prosperity, and resilience. Undoubtedly, the economic toll on our people from the effects of the global public crisis cannot be understated. We are indeed grateful for the forbearance of all Ghanaians in the wake of the domestic debt exchange program, which was difficult but ultimately a necessary exercise. It also has impacted our banking institutions, and we look to work with the banks to make sure that we get the financial stability that is required. Ultimately, the debt exchange program, combined with our multi-year focus on growth, fiscal sustainability, and debt sustainability, should accelerate our economy renaissance. We're already seeing some relative stability in the currency and in inflation, thanks to the work also by the central bank. Indeed, I think we have to move ahead. And as a good book says, we should forget the former things. We should not dwell on the past and see that new things are being done, and we are ready for that.
Well, IMF Mission Chief to Ghana, Stefan Rode, reassured that Ghana's IMF program will enable the country to build a resilient economy for the future, despite Ghana falling back on the fund 17 times.
This program is very much focused on restoring macroeconomic stability, anchoring debt sustainability, and it will also create the foundations for higher and more inclusive growth. So I think that's very important because this will set the stage for a much brighter future for all Ghanaians. I think it's important to emphasize also that this is a program that is very rich in its structural component. It includes many reforms that cover a large range of sectors, and these reforms will make the economy more resilient to shocks in the future. And this is what the government and the IMF are looking for in this program. It's a program that will make the economy more resilient and more likely to withstand shocks in the future.
Meanwhile, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, called for an expedited process for Ghana to have the full IMF program to underpin the policy resetting agenda and structural reform.
The approved IMF support program should not be seen as about the money alone, that is the budget support that comes with the approval. While that helps with the current reserves profile for the central bank, what matters most is the fact that the program sets out a set of policy and structural reforms that should help Ghana to reset our economic policy fundamentals, which was dislodged by the crisis over the last year or so. These deep-seated reforms should re-anchor policy and embed irreversibility in our policy outcomes and ensure that buffers are rebuilt to make our economy more resilient. The second point follows from the first, that this is now the time to begin the work. The program approval is just the beginning of the real work of building Ghana better. And thirdly, the Executive Board's approval of the support program yesterday, especially if you look at the time frame within which Ghana secured this approval, is an indication of the strong government's political will and commitment to the reform agenda. The painful sacrifice of Ghanaians, especially through some of the measures such as the domestic debt exchange, which has also helped us reach these conclusions very quickly. So we have reached a point where our key stakeholders should come through very quickly with their support to give meaning to the catalytic role of the fund and help build Ghana better. We see here a clear demonstration of burden sharing including macro and structural reforms and the domestic debt restructuring. We are looking forward to and continuing to count on an expedited process to conclude the remaining negotiations on external debt restructuring to ensure that Ghana quickly gets the full benefits and complements of these reforms to underpin the policy resetting agenda.
A while longer on the IMF deal, because economist Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie has urged government to be prudent in its expenditure, else risk missing out on the remaining tranches of the $3 billion support program. According to him, if government fails to any of the benchmarks, the rest of the facility could be extended, which might derail the projected target.
Viewers are aware. So the conditionality, some of which we know already, maybe going forward will be the intensity of all this. Since the 90s, the IMF actually would not specifically tell you what to do. Since the 90s, they have stopped dictating specifically what to do to countries. What they are now doing is that, for example, they are saying that, okay, your public debt is so high, and per our calculation, 49% of the public debt is from the budget, public debt is from the budget deficit. So they will say reduce the budget deficit, do something to reduce the budget deficit. They will not tell you exactly what to do. So based on your own analysis, say, okay, this is how I want to reduce my budget deficit. I want to raise tax. I want to be efficient. I'll be prudent in my management and all that. So like I said, we have seen some of the personalities, and I think we are just going to see details of that when they come for the review. If they are not okay with some of the things that we have done, they will not give us the remaining tranches. They will say, go and finish the work before they release it. And so, yes, the whole idea is to give us that stability and reform. And then going forward, we have to develop the country ourselves. The IMF program doesn't stay with any country forever. When you are in difficulties, you go to them. When you are out of the program, you must have your own internal mechanism, your own internal checks and balances, your own internal reforms, policies to grow your economy and create jobs. It shouldn't be the case that all the time we have to call on them. I've heard that rich countries like Luxembourg have gone to the IMF. Of course, you know the global challenges. But when was the last time they went to the IMF? So the IMF is there, Ghana is a member. There's nothing wrong with going to them. But I say this frequency, this cycle that we are facing as a country, that almost every 3 years we go to them. It means, like in your introduction, you're not fiscally disciplined. And if you don't take care, a time will come that it will be like almost every year, or almost every 2 years, we have to go to them. And that is not what we need as a country. We have to be independent. We have to show to ourselves and to the world that, and to our investors, that they can still do business with us and we can be disciplined.
Also, senior finance lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, Seriam Kawo, has advised the government to invest more in agriculture when it receives the $3 billion from the IMF.
This deal is just the beginning of what we expect in the future. Is the beginning of trying to ensure that the right things are done in terms of debt and debt sustainability, making sure that we get the fundamentals right. The deal is such that IMF is going to monitor whatever the country is doing. And this is the time for us to invest in our productive sectors in our economy. And so the deal coming on does not mean that all our problems will be solved. Government should invest in the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, and that will go a long way to increase productivity, increase our exports, and ensure that food products are produced in our country, and that will reduce the prices of the commodities that we have. Once inflation comes down, the Bank of Ghana interest rates will come down, and the private sector will be able to make some returns on the borrowings that they make. They will be able to borrow from the banks, produce and they will now employ people who will in turn pay more taxes to the government. And so that is the way I think we should go.
Away from the IMF and its related stories, managers of Tasty Treats, Paladin Furniture and others were picked up by the enforcement team of the Ghana Revenue Authority for failing to issue VAT invoices and selective application of the tax laws. All the managers were handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department for questioning. Well, this forms part of the operations by the authority to get businesses to obey the tax laws. Here's a report.
The day's operation began from Tasty Treats restaurant located on the campus of the University of Ghana, then to the East Legon and Adenta areas where some businesses have been identified as flouting the tax administration law, especially with regards to the payment of value-added tax. Joseph Annan is head of the enforcement team.
But for us, we always do our preventive assessments, and then we recommend you for full audit. What we did in the past, many of them are being audited, and this is not going to be different. So we have been to places like Tasty Treat Restaurant at Legon, Obsession at East Legon, Luxury Wear, East Legon, Eco Furniture, East Legon, Paladin Dolls, East Legon, AB Tissues and more, Adenta, and then TF Eatery, Adenta, where we find ourselves currently.
Mr. Annan also hinted that a docket is being processed for all culprits who have been arrested in order to face the justice system.
They are all doing selective, some are doing selective issuance, and some are not issuing at all. They tell us they are in the process of registering for VAT. But of course, like I always say, we deal with the law, and Section 41 of the VAT Act clearly states that you should be issuing the invoice at all times. So whether selective or not, once we come and you fail the test, obviously, then you need to be arrested, and then the CID will take charge of, the processes involved and build a docket for our legal unit to carry on with the process.
This exercise is part of moves by the GRA to mobilize revenue for the country.
Now, President of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Foster Osai Akono, is urging house owners to prioritize acquiring the services of engineers and architects in the construction industry. This, he said, will reduce incidents of collapsed buildings. He was speaking at the inauguration of a 4 ad hoc committee for investigations into collapsed buildings across the country.
The Ghana Institute of Engineering has inaugurated 4 ad hoc committees to investigate the collapse of buildings recently in the country. The committees are expected to ascertain whether the developers involved have acquired the requisite permits prior to the commencement of the buildings and identify the cause of collapse of the structures. In an interview, President of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Foster Osai, investigates the collapse of buildings recently in the country. The committees are expected to ascertain whether the developers involved have acquired the requisite permits prior to the commencement of the buildings and identify the cause of collapse of the structures. In an interview, President of the Ghana Institute of Architects, Foster Osage Akono, reiterated the need for people to acquire the services of professionals in the construction of buildings.
There are a lot of unemployment in the system because the offices are not hiring. The offices are not hiring because the jobs are also not there for them to hire. Okay. My advice to the general public is that let us not think, when it comes to buildings, let us not think that I've built one house, so I'm an expert. No, we as architects studied 6 years in the university, did practical training or professional training for 2 years, passed professional exams before the title architect was conferred on us. It means that we are very knowledgeable in what we do, and I will want to advise the general public to use professionals within the built environment for their buildings. We are quick to say they are very expensive, but ask yourself, how much materials do I buy? People will easily buy cement. Now it's 100 cedis, but you will easily buy 200 bags.
President of the Ghana Institute of Planners, Mohammed Al-Hassan Damba, urged the committees to be meticulous with their investigations.
They should focus on ascertaining the facts based on the various procedures and processes already established for dealing with the built environment. We think that this assignment would help us change certain things and improve our processes to, if not totally avoid, to minimize to the barest minimum the occurrence of such disasters. Because people would want to be confident that professionals know what they are about. People would want to be confident that when they go to the district assemblies and they are given permits, they would receive the right guidance to be able to develop in the right way and prevent such challenges with safety and disasters.
The committees would be investigating the collapse of 4 buildings in the country, which happened within 2 weeks.
Now, inflation for the month of April dropped from 45% in March to 41.2%. But have prices of goods really reduced in your locality? What's been the impact of the decline in inflation on prices of goods on the market? Today, my colleague Jesse Aram Agbakpo has been finding out from some traders at the Malamata market.
With inflation dropping from 45% in March to 41.2% in April, today we are here in the Malata market to gauge the prices of goods. We are here speaking to Ma here. Ma, I want to understand, how much was this a few weeks ago and how much do you sell it now?
A few weeks ago it was 35 cedis, but now it's 33 cedis.
Have reduced the price. What made you
reduce the price? Because I take it around 540 per gallon, the 25 liters, but now it's getting down to about 500 per gallon. Yes, so because the market is not flowing, the things are expensive. Anytime I go and the things comes down, the price comes down. When I get here, I also bring it down so that the market will flow.
So your cost when you are trying to acquire these gallons of oil for selling, don't you factor in transportation or you just?
I do. Sometimes I go to Okanshi to buy it myself. Sometimes I have customers who bring seed to me. At least every week they bring me about 40 gallons. Every week, 40 gallons of the 25 liters. Every week I get that. So sometimes when I go in at Okanshi myself, I consider the prices go up a little. But when I'm here and they bring it, then I drop it a little. I drop the price a little.
What has customer reactions been like? Are people happy that you've made these reductions in prices?
Yes, the buyers, my customers are sometimes happy, but my colleagues, some of my colleagues are against it that I'm spoiling the market. But I always explain to them that I don't have the physical cash to take the gallons. So when they bring it, maybe 40 gallons per week, they expect me to pay them at the end of the week. And if I don't bring down the cost so that it moves fast, I'll be hot. So I explain to them that because the customers, some of them go to Makola and they hear the prices are coming down. That's why I also bring mine down. It went high. It went very high some time ago. But now that it's dropping, they should work out so that the inflation will come down, so that it will come down and we can sell it lesser. So that everybody, there are a lot of women who want to engage in business, but they don't have the capital. But when it comes down and they have some small amount, they can also start doing something.
On our side, it seems price has not gone down yet. Some rather have increased, and it's a bit of a challenge to us. For instance, we were even selling Calipo quite recently for 62 cedis. As of just last week, the price rose from 8 to 75 cedis. And other beverages as well, the price have gone up so much, which is a bit of a challenge to us over here. We don't have much control over the prices. It all depends upon the producers or the manufacturers. When they reduce their prices and the goods come down to us, it's easy for us to also reduce the prices. But if they don't reduce their prices, we have no other option than just to put our margins on it, maybe a CD or two on it, just to, make our profit. Yeah.
So government has introduced 3 new taxes, one of which will affect beverages, non-alcoholic drink, and the implementation began 1st May. Has that reflected on prices?
Yeah, prices have reflected on some of the items. Majorly, the items that are produced here in Ghana, most of them have been increased. Like the beverages that we do sell here, the cola drinks and all those ones, the price have been increased. Unlike the ones that are imported, the price have not been increased so much, because those ones, I think, depends upon the dollar CD rate that will cause it to increase. But for now, I think the ones that are produced locally, the price are a bit high. The price we are getting from our distributors, the prices hasn't changed so much. Some come and there's rather an increase in some of the prices. Some come and the price is the same. So we also stabilize our price at that same level. Yeah.
So, for example, 2 weeks ago, how much was the cola selling for, and how much is it selling now?
The cola, let me use the Bell products, the Bell cola. So last 2 weeks it was selling for, we are getting around 30, 31 cedis, but right now we're selling around 34 cedis. So it has gone up a little. And as I was telling you, like the Calipo, we were selling for 62 cedis, now we're selling for 75 cedis. A big growth, in it. So it's a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
What about cooking oil? Some time ago, 2 weeks ago, how much?
Cooking oil, the price has come down a little. For that much, it has come down a little. Cooking oil has come down a little, and it's a bit okay now. Unlike the previous months, the price were higher, but this time the price has been reduced. So we have also reduced our prices here. Yeah. Formerly we were selling a liter of, let's say, fried oil for around 40 cedis. Now it has come down around 30 cedis, 32 cedis. So those ones have come down. But the beverages and other ones, the prices are still going up.
How has customer reactions been to the increase in the prices of the beverages, for example?
The customers normally react when there is some changes in prices. Normally when the price goes up, they are slow in their buying. They come and ask the price, thinking they're going to buy it in the old price. When they come and you tell them the price, they are just alarmed, and all they do is that they just back out. They just don't want to come in and buy again. They feel that the price is too much. Or some will go and maybe will come back later, and if the quantities that they want to buy, they will reduce the quantities. So it doesn't help in making good turnovers, to take care of other challenges in the work as well. We are being controlled by policies, and the policies, we can't do anything about it. So if the government brings out a policy and we have to abide by it, we all bite the bullet. There's nothing we can do about it. If prices or taxes are reduced, it will reflect in the goods that we are selling, and it will also reduce the price for the customers or the final consumers to also buy. But if the price increases, people adjust their way of spending. If maybe he has to spend some 3 cedis or 4 cedis on the drink, and the drink has been increased to 5 cedis, some may decide not to drink again. So you lose that customer, who is come to buy that drink. So I think if the government, in a way, can find a way to mitigate these challenges and bring down prices, I think it's good for all of us.
Thanks so much for watching Prime Business with me, Pious Kojo Backah. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Prime Sports is next.